Hey, good morning, guys. It is 7:50 a.m. Tuesday, September the 6th, and just making a quick follow-up video from the one I made last evening. That I made about 8 or 9 hours before the Australian cash rate and rate statement came out, and I did not end up taking a trade. So I just wanted to just quickly review what happened. Now, about 3 hours before the cash rate statement came out, which is the one I was focused on right here, that came out at 12:30 a.m. New York time. But 3 hours prior to that was the current account. And this is an orange level news event. It doesn't usually create that much movement in the market, although the orange ones can. That's why I have them up here. But for the most part, it's the red ones. But I didn't talk about this in the video because I wasn't expecting it to really be that big of an event. But this is basically kind of like a deficit measure between imported and exported goods. And so they were expecting about minus $20 billion, which is not a great number. Basically in the deficit, and it came out at minus 15.5, which is still not good, but it's better than they expected. So you can see it here in green, and so that caused the Australian dollar to be positive. And I think probably it was positive and had a larger effect than normal because the cash rate was expected to remain on hold, which it was. And the rate statement, I would say, was pretty much neutral to slightly dovish. So, but there were no surprises. So the rate statement was pretty much a non-event. So we'll just go to the charts for a minute here. And here's the Euro Aussie on the 1 hour chart. And right about here is when the current account news came out. And you can see for about 3 or 4 hours, it did sell off, particularly for 2 hours. It went down quite a bit. And then right about here, where the crosshair is about where the rate statement news came out, and that pretty much was a non-event. The market did take it as slightly bullish, and it continued down. Now we are correcting back up here, which this is probably just a correction, so I'm just ignoring this up move here. But so this is what happened, and so because of that, we did not get the rally back to the upside that we were originally looking at. Although this red line, which I mentioned last night, this is the 61.8 retracement level, and you can see that's right where the market went to. It's sitting right on that line. And so, of course, there's no hard and fast rule about Fibonacci levels. They're just a guide. But this is the 61.8 retracement level of this prior move up. So this is an important area. Not to say if it breaks it, that means we're going to keep going down. Because then you'll have the 78% one. I mean, really, unless it takes out these lows down here, then that would be the only way that this prior uptrend would be negated. So, but it's an interesting level to watch, and right now it's holding. So, although I do think this will attempt to make another push down. So, the Aussie Swiss was another one we were looking at, and again, this is where the news came out, right about here. And then, we've been rallying up. This is the 4-hour chart. This is where the news came out on the current account. Again, we rallied up, and then this was where the rate statement came out, and then we've gone up since then a little bit more, and now we're selling off. This is probably end of a trend, although we might see this go back. So, and it's the same story on the pound Aussie. Pound Aussie is now going up, and so this one I'm watching a little bit more carefully because although I'm not going to be anxious to jump into any longs on this, I was waiting for this, and I was talking about this last night as being the end of a correction. And we may be seeing it now, although I'm a little leery about jumping into that right now. But I will be keeping an eye on this. And you should also note that tonight in the Australian dollar, let's see, where are we here? 9:30 p.m. New York time tonight, we have Australian dollar GDP coming out. And this is going to be a very important metric, especially in wake of the rate decision being pretty much a non-event. And they are expecting a worse showing than previously, 0.4% versus a prior 1.1%. So this one's going to be worth watching because this is a very critical number for the Australian dollar. And again, given that the cash rate and RBA statement was essentially a quiet event, I wouldn't say a complete non-event, but a quiet event, I think this GDP number is going to be much bigger. So if that disappoints and comes out, I mean, if it comes out at 0.4, it's going to be as expected. It'll be slightly negative, but that's what the market's expecting. If it comes out worse than that, then I think we could see a reversal or at least an end of a trend on these moves. And again, we're seeing some strength in the pound Aussie, so we are seeing weakness a little bit in some of these Aussie pairs. So that'll be an interesting one to watch. So I didn't take any trades on that news, but I didn't feel like going long the Australian dollar or short on these crosses like the Euro Aussie, the Pound Aussie was worthwhile. I still think that there's some larger moves to come. So, and I don't like jumping on a moving freight train like that. Since I wasn't in those trades right when they started, I actually wasn't even watching the news when the current account news came out at 9:30. Then it just wasn't something I was willing to jump into, and I'm okay with that. So, and I'll be watching tonight to see if there's another opportunity, and we'll go from there. And as I mentioned, there are a lot of other things coming out this week. Today we also have the Kiwi Dairy GDT price indexes, the dairy pricing in New Zealand. Very important number, but again, there's no set time to release this number, and so I may not be around, but it's an interesting one to watch. It's good for, I think, for short-term trades, for a day trade or something, depending how it comes out, but it's probably not going to one I'm going to have a chance to see today. 12:15, we have the Swiss National Bank Chairman Jordan speaking. He's speaking at the Faculty of Economics in Lucerne. So I don't know if that's not going to really be a policy speech. So it's a red level because, of course, it's a bank chairman. But I don't suspect that will be a big mover. But you never know with the Swiss. So for me today, my main focus today will be the Australian GDP numbers tonight. So anyways, guys, just want to make a follow-up. And as I said last night when I made the video, things always subject to change based on what the patterns show at the time the news comes out. And at the time, I was thinking that that the euro, that the Aussie Swiss would sell off based on this pattern, but it is continuing up. And so if you took a long here on the news, terrific. But just be cautious because the GDP numbers tonight could have a negative impact on that. So, like I said, I did not end up taking a trade, and I will sit and watch and see what happens tonight. So, and if there's any setups, then I'll be taking those tonight. So. Alright guys, so maybe I'll make another video tonight before that comes out, take a look a half hour or so before the news comes out and see where things are looking. But got to be flexible and be ready to adjust and not be too committed to anything until you really get the final look in before the news comes out, and that's definitely was the case here. So alright guys, have a great day.